Stream test, stream test. That sounds pretty good. Test. Now, if I back over here, not much to it. Yep. Yeah, all right.
again, for time's sake, I just want to thank everybody that's here, that's paying attention, that we've got in the crowd. My name is Chris Tovar. I am the Director of Continuing Education, and we are putting an event today for everybody that's going to allow us to work on the topic of micro-credentials. And so before we begin, I want to introduce our provost and have him say a few things.
Thanks, Chris. Good afternoon, colleagues. The continuing education is a new enterprise. We want to reset our UTPB roles moving forward. Chris Trover is with us for almost a year now, 8 months. Our job is to reinvent our continuing education program at UT Permian Basin. The step one in the process is to integrate our micro-credentials to our curriculum so that we provide an opportunity for our students, what they can learn away from the curriculum, what they can learn from industry credentials and workforce credential, make them sellable to the workforce needs in the Permian Basin. So this is such an important initiative. Chris pulled in excellent guest speakers for the discussion this afternoon. We appreciate your participation. Chris also made tremendous progress with respect to how you all can take advantage of these resources freely available for our students, our staff, for you as a faculty, as well as for our alums. So please work with them to incorporate some of this credentials and micro-credential as appropriate for your individual programs and the college and the department. We are here to support. Chris is always available for you to promote this function in any way we can. And we are working on additional program offerings through our continuing education office. We appreciate your participation this afternoon and time, and thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Raj. I sure do appreciate that. Again, my name is Chris Tovar. I am with Continuing Education, part of the Academic Affairs Office here at UTPB. I'm going to actually step away from the podium as I do this PowerPoint. And the point of this is just a day of discussion for anybody that's on, anybody that wants to come in. It's a formal, informal. You don't have to necessarily be in person. You can definitely use the QR code to do the live stream. I know everybody's at lunch right now, so that's why I wanted to do the PowerPoint, is to bore you through the PowerPoint. In the discussion to follow that, you'll have a good opportunity to hear and get some great feedback from some community experts. So what I actually want to go back, I asked all of my panelists, give me a quote that defines you. And the reason for that is, in a discussion, you want to be comfortable. You want to see where they're coming from. And I think our provost really set a good opportunity for us to feed off of the growth mindset with positive attitude to meet our students' needs. That's really what we're here for as a university, is we want to be able to give back to our community and the students that are going to be supporting our community. And I think if we have that growth mindset, we actually start to begin that process. So I want to be able to share that opportunity for y'all to meet Dr. Raj on a different level that defines him. So let me get this working here. So part of our micro-credential process here, I want to take you through the process and how we got to this discussion. And that begins with funding. Strata is a large corporation that works on grant funding for universities to be able to have the necessities whenever they're beginning these challenges. Ours is beyond completion, and it started with an initiative that Strata had posted for the nation. The UT system as a whole, we're a large system, and we were able to participate and be chosen as one of those universities, and I just kind of wanted to take you through a little bit of that. Beyond completion, Strata Education Foundation, it's a partnership that task force on with higher education and opportunity. This actually launched the 10 Million Beyond Completion Challenge to support higher education institutions to identify and expand new solutions. Okay. Gotcha. So this actually allowed higher educations the necessary funding to give back to their communities through initiatives. And so what I did was I wanted you to kind of see how we got this funding and where it came from, what were, the opportunity for us. And there's different phases. There's two phases, actually. The first phase, during the first phase of this challenge, 15 institutions were selected for up to $250,000 in innovation grants to support initiatives. These initiatives were defined by these institutions, and so it was a very large pool of candidates to be chosen from. Phase 1 ended. Phase 2 actually produced a little bit more of that grant funding at $1.5 million, and that's exactly what we, as one of those institutions were able to get from that grant. The grants actually supported 4 universities with that $1.5 million, and so if you notice, I put our UT systems as one of those for one of the institutions, but you see our institution is amongst others around the nation. So you look at Arizona State, their grant supports their Work Plus program, Rio Salado Community College, Custom Academic Readiness and Essential Employment Reskill, which they dubbed Career. These are community events that these universities, University of Utah West Valley College to Career, so it's a community-driven grant. And I like that because here in our community, our university partners very well. And I think if we have the ability to meet the expectations for many of these colleges, or even just as a community, they look at our college as a support system. And that's really what I want us to be able to focus on. So going into that, our focus was Texas Credentials for the Future. And I put a quote up here from our chancellor. UT institutions are finding innovative ways to ensure that educational offerings fit the needs for employers in order to equip our graduates for competitive job opportunities immediately upon graduation, while also reskilling and upskilling non-traditional students. Geographically, everybody serves a different type of community. Here in our community, we have a lot of non-traditional, first generation, Spanish-speaking, we have such a diverse population of students. That's really where we can focus on helping the upskilling or reskilling so that when they do commit to that traditional degree, we can also support them as they work while they attain that degree. And I think that's really the important part is there's very little of that seen is going to school full-time outside of having a job. And I think our career services, who I'll introduce later, they do a really, really fantastic job at finding the alignment employer for our students whenever they're working on those degrees. But this is our team. So our team is led by Dr. Kelvin Bentley, who is the project manager for Texas Credentials for the Future. One little side note that I wanted to add that I think was super, super important was Dr. Bentley has done extremely well going from 300,000 users to 1.6 million within the UT system. That's a huge, huge opportunity for our university to feed off of. And I think that we can see that Dr. Bentley's hard work, he received the Learning Hero Award, which I wanted to point out. I know Dr. Bentley very well, and I don't think he would really mind me saying that he's worked very hard and earned that. And I think that our team really supported him and allowed him to be recognized along with his efforts and everything that he's done. But our team consists of every single UT system. Stephen F. Austin is also a part of our UT system now, but I wanted to put their names up on this board because I wanted you to see who is working in the background to get this grant really in the hands of our employers and our students. And so I wanted to put them on here because we do work very hard. We meet, we discuss, we have great feedback, but then we also produce actionable results that lead to really good outcomes. And you can find this all over the internet. You can find it in case studies. You can see where their opportunities have really met the community's needs. And I wanted to really point that out. And so we actually partnered with Coursera through the grant fund. So the UT system partnered with them. And what Coursera is Coursera is a learning platform that offers these micro-credentials. And I think the certificates and everything, we'll discuss the definition of micro-credential when we get into our panelist discussion, because there's really a very broad term. It's not just a few words. There's a lot of definitions. But Career Academy or Coursera for Campus is what we provide for the students, faculty and staff, and then as well as the alumni. that really targets what UTPB is all about. I think we really want to be able to say that it doesn't just as a current student, that these are available to you. It extends beyond the walls of this building to our alumni. And I think that really shows the support of those that come here, earn a degree, find that relationship with this particular university, and then they can continue that through growth and innovation. So these are actually the marketing flyers that we have for the QR codes for those that are interested in learning about the Career Academy. I'm also going to have some information here that you can also reach out to me. The alumni go through a verification process. I do want to get you familiar with that. That verification process allows us to ensure that we're getting the right person their invite. I've already had some people that didn't go to UTPB that they try to buck the system and get that initiative sent to them, but it doesn't work that way. So be on that alert there, alumni, that verification. This is what Coursera has to offer on their platform. So these are actually the available professional certificates that are available now to you in the Career Academy. So if you set your account up and you go through in that process, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see industry recognized professional certificates that you can upskill yourself or reskill yourself, or even just learn something that can help with your degree. And I think that's important because a lot of these are super, super important to developing the general skills that you get alongside your degree. And this kind of helps get that opportunity for you to market yourself. You can speak about it to your potential employer. But I think this really gives us an understanding. So helping students earn valuable professional certificates. If you notice, this one is just a broad. This one here kind of narrows it down. On the left side, you're going to see software and IT. You're going to see business. You're going to see data. You're going to see health. And this is constantly evolving. So what you see here may change in a couple of months, or there may be a few things that are taken off to actually meet the standards and update them, or there's going to be new ones. So these are opportunities for you to kind of see where specifically. And then also, Coursera has gone to a point where they started to work with the American Council on Education on providing credit for these non-credit, which I think is huge whenever somebody wants to go into a program here at UTPB. They can use some of these non-credit bearing that actually hold credit now. These can actually be a discussion with your professors, with your programs on, does this meet the needs to be able to count for certain classes? So that really helps with the student being able to have that opportunity to do that. And I think that was really a nice opportunity where we're kind of looking at how that works as far as credit for prior learning and just having credit for these non-credit certificates. So now what I'd like to do is I have some poll questions here just to kind of collect some data. And so what I wanted to do was I want to activate this QR code because this is going to be geared for our students that are listening. I want our students to give us feedback. My department, I need feedback. I need to know what you're thinking. I need to know the opportunities that we have within the continuing education to support you better. Let me activate this really quick, but I definitely want y'all to be able to have this survey. Okay, so when you scan this, Poll Everywhere Student Survey, if you're a student, I'd like you to scan this and answer the 2 questions that are on there. The questions will give us an opportunity to work in the future on what is needed for our university here within Odessa. Let me see. Okay, so the question that you have, so the questions that you have are going to be this question here. Given that these micro-credentials are free and could be integrated into your existing coursework, how interested would you be in the following options? 1 being most interested, 4 being least interested. This is going to allow me to work with our faculty when it comes to developing the curriculum to allow the content from this. So earning a micro-credential alongside my degree, having micro-credentials as optional add-ons to my courses, having micro-credential skills assessed within my course assignments, and no interest in integrating micro-credentials into my coursework. The reason why I ask this question is because I already know you're bogged down with a lot of work. I know that these programs that we have here are very challenging, and they're supposed to be challenging because we want the best students to be in these interviews, and I want our employers to see that they are a strong candidate for the opportunity to work for these companies. This opportunity gives you and our faculty accountability to strive for. We want to be able to have the general skills embedded within these courses to help improve them. And I think that's really what this question is going to give you. So going to the next question, if you can click on that. The next question is ranking the following factors in order of importance when considering a free micro-credential program. 1 being the most important, 5 being the least. So if you see here, career relevance, employer recognition, instructor quality, flexibility, time and location, and then integration into existing coursework. I wanted you to rank them because this helps us with the discussions that I have with our faculties and our deans, because it does trigger more work for them, but I want them to be able to know what they're going to be working for. It helps them pinpoint certain programs, certain courses that we can improve, but it also gives us an opportunity to partner with career services to see career relevance. And I think that's really the ultimate goal when you're going to school and you're earning your degree, is how is it going to benefit me when I'm done? I'm no different than anybody else. I went back for another degree because I wanted to work in a different industry. And in order for me to gain that knowledge, you're going to have to take classes. And I think the discussion that we have, you're going to see the difference between the time it's going to take in a traditional degree versus a micro-credential certificate program. We're really going to dive into that in the discussion, so I want to encourage everybody to come back to that and listen into some of these experts, because they can tell you the relevancy of it. They're the experts. They do that 8 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day, and I think their input on that from an expert opinion really, really helps. So that's going to be part of that data. You can go back. So that's going to be something that I want to encourage you to continue doing, and I'll leave it. It'll be activated in terms of until we get to the next one. So going back to make sure that I'm right on track. So going back to the actual data, how do we know where we stand? How does our UTPB and our UT system provide data for our provost, for our deans, for our faculty? Well, what you're looking at is you're looking at the non-credit degree credit recommendations from ACE for the specializations that we pull analytics from the actual platform. Now, this is just a snapshot. This actually was a snapshot from the 1st of January, from the 1st of February. But if you notice here, these are actually people that have completed 223 of the actual specializations, which means they went through the actual course and got that specialization. Now they can add that to their resume. So there's opportunity for you to beef up your resume by putting this within your actual experience or learning. And I think this kind of helps us see where we are as a university, but what can I do to market this to better meet the needs of our community, those employers, or even the alumni. I really want there to be a good understanding that this is free. This is something that you don't have to pay for. This is something that the UT system has brought to us as a system, and I want to see our community take advantage of it. I've already taken advantage of it, and let me tell you, it fits within the flexibility of everyday life. I know there's a work-life balance, and I think that's what this data represents, is if these people can do it, we all can do it. And I think that really speaks volumes to those that are taking advantage of it. So continue, sign up for Career Academy, take advantage of that opportunity, because it's not something that we often see where we can have such a lucrative platform that has a lot of content brought to us for free. This is something that I actually wanted to put up here. UT Arlington has done a really, really good job at taking this initiative, Texas Credentials for the Future, and running with it. So this all started back in 2021. So 2021, 2022, all the way up to 2025. So December of 2025, the expectation of our agreement is where it takes us. UT Arlington has done a really, really good job incorporating faculty into a workshop that helps them learn the implementation of the content. Learn the content, first of all. Our faculty can actually go in and take these certificates. They can see the quality of this actual content to see how it fits their curriculum or the class that they're looking in terms of embedding that. UTA has these workshops, and I wanted to put this up for our faculty that's on this reservation spot here, because Dr. Andrew Clark and his team have really done a great job picking up and taking this and continuing this. And I really think that this will help our faculty. So faculty, if you're interested in learning how to implement credentials into your course, I really want you to take advantage of this. Our opportunity to do this and create workshops is a little bit out of our time frame. We did come into this process a little bit later than most of some of the universities, but that doesn't mean that we can't utilize their resources. And Dr. Clark actually encourages other institutions to be able to gravitate to his program. So February the 18th, 11:30 to 1. It is in person, but there's also opportunity for you to go in and do the virtual aspect, because I know some of you have that. But this is just, I mean, if you're interested in learning how to implement, this will actually be the workshop for you. So take advantage of that and make sure that you have your information RSVP'd for Dr. Clark and his team there. So let's get into the credit side of the certificates. So Coursera is a non-credit bearing, but I do want to emphasize UTPB does offer stackable credit certificates. And we're working to build a lot more here at the university that's going to enhance the credit side of our programs. There's a huge push for programs in the nation to create these sidetrack learnings within that program. And I think Dr. Raj has really done a good job at giving us the opportunity to work with our internal capabilities and see what we have in order to build these stackables for our faculty and for our students. And I think this is something that industry recognizes. These are actually utilized for a specific skill set within that particular degree. Stackable certificates, it fits right into the degree plan. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be learning stackable material at the same time that you're learning your degree, and it can actually coincide with you earning the stackable at the end of your degree. So it boosts transferable and variable skills in which highly desired by employers. The whole point of this event is employers need to know that students have access. So those employers that are listening, if you have students or if you're a student, these are actually things that you can participate in at the same time. Your academic advisors are always there to help with you in terms of getting that figured out. But it adds specialization to your degree. It helps you to stand out in a competitive market. And I think our career services does a great job at identifying how the market trend and what the target markets are looking for. You're going to meet some panelists that are experts in their field. One of them is actually an expert in cybersecurity. So you're going to see the changes that in cybersecurity that we need to follow that path. And so building these stackables helps us do that. Results in a higher potential salary. So nothing's guaranteed in life. I just want to put that as a disclaimer. But higher salary is a potential. If you do this for yourself and you market yourself and you begin to build your resume, then you can have that negotiation discussion at the table. I think that's really important that we point that out, that it can generate a little bit more of an income for our students, or even those that are wanting to add a stackable to a current degree that they have. And it helps you gain expertise, specialized fields that it can increase your chances of promotion. So those of you that are working, if you want to get back, if you have an opportunity and your time flexibility allows that, that's a good thing for you to work for a promotion. There's nothing wrong with that. Offers online training that is flexible, short-term, and less expensive than starting a second or third full-time job. I think that really hit me because that was the way that I made my income when I was very early in my career. Was I thought I had to have 2 jobs just to learn, and it has burned me out. I was burning the candle at both ends, and let me tell you, it changes real quick. And I think having that opportunity of seeing the flexibility, it being online, You having the opportunity for the cost, the expense, so you're not having to work for a larger tax bracket at the end of the year. You can do this and you can actually work less if you look at it that way. And what I mean by less is you can have one full-time job, okay? But I know there's some workaholics out there that love to do that, but that's something that I think it needs to be noted. Some of the actual stackables, if you're an undergrad student looking to boost your liberal arts, business, or computer science engineering degree, you may be interested. We have these currently. So these are the actual current stackable certificates that we have. Certificate in Spanish for first responders, certificate in digital marketing. We're going to have one of our panelists that is one of our faculty that specializes in marketing that's going to talk to us a little bit about that certificate in digital marketing and what it can do to, to the degree plans that she's actually incorporating for students. Students working towards currently holding a master's degree may want to consider boosting their skills with programs including energy business. We're the hub, so energy business is what we do. This is what our community, Permian Basin, this is what we generate. We're the largest domestically, and we actually have opportunity for you to go in and learn that aspect. So whether you're downstream, midstream, upstream, energy business is energy business on that particular spectrum. So take advantage of that energy business. It helps you learn all three of those concepts of within the oil and gas. GIS, geospatial certificate, again, land, geo, you got to know what you're digging. So those types of credentials help you. Spanish, predominantly Spanish-speaking community. I think this really points to what type of mindset, like Dr. Raj was saying, we have to see what our community needs are. If we're not meeting the community needs, then what's the point of our university expanding the services? We've got to partner with the right people within ECISD, within other community colleges that surround our region, and we've got to support the counties that we have. So believe it or not, as large as Midland and Odessa is, there's a lot of rural towns out there that we want to be able to take that opportunity to get these certificates out to them, or we wanted them to have that opportunity to be able to gain that. Entrepreneur certification. There's a lot of business startups. There's a lot of people that are anticipating this being an avenue for them. So these certificates are really, really things that can help generate that buzz for you and get you that knowledge. So here's another poll. This is actually going to be geared for stackable certificates. And what I want is, do you have that one? It's on that. All right. So the QR code on this one here, this questions that you have for the code, and we'll put that code back up there. So this is actually going to be, that's okay, we'll put it up there. So which of the following types of stackable certificates not offered by UT Permian Basin would be most valuable to you in your current job? 1 being most interesting, 5 being least interested, excuse me. Energy transition and diversification. So I gave some examples of carbon capture. I know there's a lot of things within our community that really haven't taken off, but I think if we look at how we can meet that expectation before we get to that lack of specialists, that's really what I was hoping to accomplish with this is, what is it that employers out there know that can help us as a university get there with them? And that's really what we don't want, is we don't want to find ourselves behind the curve, not having enough specialists, and then working diligently to try to get that number maximized within, then you start to look at quality, you start to look at different things that affect that. And so looking at all of this, advanced manufacturing, we've got a great opportunity here within our region to really advance that. Early education, early childhood development, our STEM, special education. We have such a great college of education here. Our faculty would love to hear what is needed out there from a rating. I think that'll give us an opportunity to do that. And then we can go to the next one. So if offered today, Which of the following delivery methods for stackable credited certificates in the previous question would be most appealing to you? 1 being the most appealing, 4 being the least appealing. And this is 2 questions. Fully online, self-paced courses, on-campus course room setting. I think that's important because if y'all all remember, everything was virtual a few years back. And it changed how technology was brought to the forefront of workforce and education. How were those two being met, and what were we doing in order to get that in a safe manner? And I think now that we're outside of that, now let's start thinking about is on campus. We're actually redoing our campus, so in the next couple of years, you're going to see a really, really different campus. And I think that was my experience of the hybrid. I got to be on campus in the classroom with my classmates and my professor. It's a different atmosphere when you have that. And I think that getting back to that definitely is something that would be nice. But fully online, self-paced courses, that's something that we've really learned to specialize in. And I think that our university is no different than any other university. So thank y'all for participating into that. Appreciate it. So right now, what I want to do is I kind of got through that. I want to take this opportunity to allow Megan with career services, based on this information, to kind of help see where career services is at now. She'll answer some more questions in there, but I would like her to, based off of where we are and we kind of where we've begun with our students, I would like her to kind of give us an opportunity to hear how has career services changed with micro-credentials. Is there certain employers that are wanting certain things? Is it different for your staff in terms of how we're going out and targeting employers? If you don't mind, just kind of give us just a little bit of understanding of how, since micro-credentials has kind of taken hold into our university, what has changed in the last couple of years for your department?
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Megan Baeza. I serve as the Executive Director of Career Services. And I love the micro-credentials because we get so many students saying, how can I be competitive in the job market? And I think, really being able to highlight these on your resume, we want students early on here at UTPB to really explore the internships so they have industry experience, because we know when they graduate with industry experience, one, they're happy with their career because they know what they're getting into, and two, they're paid more because they go in with experience, and that's what we want for all of our Falcons. But we know internships are not for everyone, right? You may not have the time or ability to do one, and so micro-credentials is another pathway. And, I think too, we forget sometimes that students are nervous. It's hard to be confident and go in and talk with employers. And so when you have a micro-credential to back these skills up and have projects that you've worked on, it gives them language. And so they are more confident and skilled. And so, again, more competitive in the job market. And of course, employers, our Falcons are in high demand. And so they want them, and they want them to be able to come in and make a difference day one, right? And so these hands-on skills matter. Sure.
Absolutely. So I wanted Megan to give us that, because things change. Micro-credentials actually, for us, it's been around. Micro-credentials have been around for about 10 years. There are other universities that have done a really good job at incorporating these within their program. They spent a lot more invested time doing that. We're getting to that point. And the reason why I wanted Megan to talk about that was because local, state, and federal funding is there for us. And I think that it's important that we see career services are doing their part. They're working with these students. They're finding the avenues that these students may not have seen before, but the micro-credential allows them a better seat at the table. And if they have a better seat at the table, what that does for them is it builds confidence. And I think micro-credentials, it's no different than any learning that we've done. Those of you that are not computer savvy and can type really, really fast like your coworkers, that's something that's confident driven. The more you do it and repetition you do it, you get better at it. And I think micro-credentials gives us that general skill set, adaptability to whatever they're going to experience. And what I wanted to point up here, Megan, is that because career services around the nation have looked at departments like yours, the funding has actually gone up from these local, state, and federal funding. So they want to spend the money. And I think if we show that our career development team or our career services team are finding these employers, and they know that we have the faculty and they know that we have the ability to generate these micro-credentials within our own community, that's where this comes from. So Megan, thank you so much, because I think it really sits into this type of, we know that UTPB can't do it all. And I think that that's really, what's always with every employer. Not every employer has that funding set aside, or that GL bank account, or that money tree in the back that grows like some of us think it does. Some of us don't have that. And I think with us partnering as an employer and as a university, we can make a good case, local, state, and federal. We have the ability to do that. And I think that as an employer, you're going to see the experience of what employer going after this can do for a university, because then now, guess what? We have the experts. They may not have the classroom experience, but then they lean on us. So we're working on industries, at least giving them an opportunity to go after this. So one of them that I really, so I'm from Sweetwater. Roscoe Wind Farm is the largest wind farm. I grew up and graduated in 1996. There was nothing like that. Those of you that been on Interstate 20 going to Dallas and you see all of those wind farms, that's my neighborhood now. And those were never, something that we would have never thought 20 years ago that would be such in high demand. New York is no different. There's a turbine operation there that they actually received $313,000 to be able to help with the creation of this specialist. You're looking at some of these universities, $45,000. I don't know about you, but I can take $45,000 and spend it like it was $145,000. And I think that that's the mindset that we need to have going into this. Employers, we want you to not struggle. Our career services does not want you to feel like there's nobody in the pipeline for you. And I think if we start to create that mindset here at UT, this thing is just driving me crazy. If we can find ways to work through what we consider red tape, it's not red tape. It's actually pretty easy to get into these programs and get this money sent over. And what I like about it is they give it to you. Like there's no, I'm going to give you 10%, I'm going to give you this. These colleges and universities, that's what was given to them. And I think TWC, who is here today, can explain a little bit better than I can how our workforce board really does promote the use of this money. If it sits on the table, it doesn't work. If we as an employer allow that to sit on there, guess what? Then we're allowing our workforce to struggle. We're allowing our workforce to not build itself if that money's just sitting on the table. So these types of opportunities are high in demand for us. And I think our TWC expert here will speak to that. And it'll allow us to see exactly where we need to be going in terms of workforce. So at this time, I think what I'm going to do is, since I've got through all of these slides, I want to go back and I want to touch on something that I thought was very, very important when it came to this component here. Go back to it, sorry. So when you look at American Council of Education, one of the things that we also struggled with was, do employers see these micro-credentials as a viable source of education for students that are going to be coming in and filling their roles? American Council of Education feels that it does. And that's what I like and I want our employers to see, is that you're not going to get a student that just has a certificate, but there's no backing of supporting that. If they're willing to put credit on these particular data analytics, data analysts, if they're willing to put that as a credit, that means that the quality of that particular micro-credential meets the standard expectations of the American Council of Education. And so I want our employers to feel confident that when you see this on a resume, you're going to see it as being supported not just by UTPB and Coursera, but you're going to see it being supported by the American Council of Education. And I think that's truly important because that was the discussion that I had with some of our colleagues in other geographical areas where they're putting these students in these micro-credential classes, but their employers are not seeing it as viable content of learning because it doesn't have a 2-year, a 4-year, or a 6-year behind it. And sometimes I think that's what we overlook. Subject matter experts are truly, truly those that have been in the system, they've been in this workforce or this particular line of industry for a long time, that the quality of content that they're teaching meets that standard. And I think that's really what I want to push is employers see this as viable. Don't see it as something that, oh, well, he has this, it doesn't mean anything. I highly recommend you consider, letting this be what separates those peers that you're interviewing, because I can tell you there is data out there that supports if you look at this type of content and you look at the quality of candidates that you're getting, your return on investment for that particular employee is going to actually go down. You're not going to spend, it's going to go up because you're not going to continue spending money on training when they already have it. And not only that, for those of you that are students, those of you that are faculty and staff, it's free. I mean, really, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know how to make it any clearer that we decided this partnership based on our chancellor's opportunity to fill the workforce gaps. And I think if we take advantage of a free resource, our community, such as the Permian Basin, can start to see the job gaps close. And I think that's really our goal, is wanting to make sure that those gaps start to close so that we don't see a high turnover, a frustration, or even people leaving our Permian Basin to go somewhere else. We have the ability to keep them here. So I just wanted I wanted to point that out, and I think it was very important for our employers to hear the content that you're going to be getting when you look at these, or anybody that's doing them, is actually supported for credit. So, but at this time, I am going to go ahead and get into intermission. So those of you come back and join us after our intermission. We're going to have 5 expert panelists that are going to have we're going to have a great discussion about micro-credentials, how it's impacted their expertise, how it's made them start to look at micro-credentials differently. And then we're also going to talk about funding. What does that look like? What does it look like in 2 years? What does it look like, in terms of how the state's going? So there's going to be some experts here that are going to be able to answer some questions. So I highly recommend you come back and join us after the intermission. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate it.
would you go down on it?
We didn't touch it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be at 0.
What was it saying?
-1.9. We'll go up here. If it's low, just so you guys all know, you can click right here and go to advanced, and you can go up to like 3 on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that will pump the volume. Okay? But now anything that's said in this room will be captured.
You better go test it?
No, we're good.
Okay. Oh, boy.
So you're hooked up exactly the same way as yesterday?
Yeah, except, yesterday, yeah.
Are you running the audio from that to your camera?
Yeah, this is feeding audio to the camera.
Are you
which-
seeing audio on your camera?
Yeah, it is really good. Really good.
Okay.
Sounds great over my headphones. The only thing difference between last Friday and now is I was coming out of the HDMI into your system.
Well, I'm gonna
Whereas-
change my audio capture while we're not doing anything back to. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Test, 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 1, 2, 1, 2. Does it look good?
Yeah, it's hitting the yellow.
Perfect.
Hello. Oh, goodness, that's loud.
You want it from the game or from the master?
It's from input number 1 on the mixer.
Okay, gotcha.
Hello, everyone.
Keep
Oh,
going.
keep going? Oh, my gosh. I don't know. Right. Welcome to our panel. Let's keep going. I didn't have to be the first one.
You're doing great.
My name is Chelsea. It's nice to meet everyone. Hi, Chelsea. Hi. Anything else I can probably talk for days and days. I went
She's
to
number
4, not number 1. You told me it's number 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, say something now.
Oh, now it's, is that better?
Keep talking.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Oh.
Who are you?
I graduated from Texas A&M University and with a degree in history, crazy enough. And then I became a science teacher, so so there you go.
That's about as good as we're gonna get. Perfect, thank you.
I'm usually pretty good with things.
You've always known my name. Never called me the wrong name. It's this guy that called me the wrong name. Who are you?
Does he have them?
Yes, ma'am. He'll clip it on to you, and then we'll get you to talk. And
Hello? Hello? Hello?
I got her. I got her.
My name's Caitlin. I graduated with a BBA from UTB in marketing.
Okay. You're talking like somebody's right in front of you. Talk to me back here.
Oh, way back there.
Yeah, talk to
Okay.
me. When you got a microphone on, you talk to the back of the audience.
Okay.
So that's
Thanks, Scott.
much better. Much better. Much better. Keep talking.
Okay, Scott, I'm still talking about everything.
You're my hero. Next.
She's not too shy.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah.
To fix the microphone.
But she,
Okay.
like, she's in the car.
Yeah.
Scott, can you hear me?
Keep talking.
Oh, okay. I'm not very good at it, but my name is Lily Guy. I'm an associate professor of marketing, and I use micro-credentials with my students. And
Lily,
she
I
is-
know that you have a ticket open with us. What was your ticket open about?
I think that one got solved, but nobody is working on it.
It was assigned to me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm going to update.
Okay, we're
Thank
good.
you.
Next
Thanks,
ticket.
good, right?
Nobody will help me. It's
Oh,
me.
no. You're so busy, so who's going to go to my office and work on it?
I can't believe they had the surgery and just kicked her out.
No, her stats were all over the place. We got a monitor on her from the hospital. And if it gets out of the range, it's out of the range right now. So we're headed to medical center.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm advertising that all over YouTube. It's perfect.
Okay. Hi, my name is Diana. I'm with Workforce Solutions Permian Basin. And,
Perfect.
okay, awesome.
Now remember, guys, that microphone's there. You're going to be tempted to turn your head and look to the person asking you the questions. Remember to answer, face the crowd. Because otherwise, you're turning away from your microphone.
What?
Okay, this is number 5. What we should have done for next time is you ask Bob to shoot intermission, and then you mute the audio so that none of this gets out, all of our mic tests and everything. So you can mute the audio now, and then just remember to
Back for the discussion panel portion of this event. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending in person as well as logging on to our live stream on YouTube. I'm hoping that everybody got out of their lunch period and is able to get on with us and participate. So I do want to introduce our panels, panelists. What I actually had them send me was a nice quote that defines them. And I think this allows you to see where each of our panelists, from a professional standpoint, but also how they blend in their personal side of things. So I want to introduce Gina Lewis, who is the Managing Director for Tall Cities Cyber. Gina's quote was, "Motivation shows up when you do." And that's a quote I think everybody has their different definitions of motivation, but we all know what it takes for motivation to do that. So I like that, Gina. So Gina is one of our panelists that is our cybersecurity expert. Gina is a veteran, formerly serving 20 plus years in the military. And Gina is a very good example of having nothing of understanding of computers. And Gina served with a special division that launched unmanned drones. So that probably is a true testament of, you know, when somebody doesn't really know anything about what they're getting into, I guess they really don't know what they're getting into, right? But 25 years, so thank you for being here, Gina.
Just to clarify, I didn't know anything about computers when I started.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
But 25 years later, she's a panelist talking about cybersecurity and the experts that she works with and that she is. So thank you again for being here. Our next panelist, Caitlin Winchell, Associate Designer, Encore Electric Delivery. I think it's safe to say, as an alumni, it's pretty cool to be back on campus, not having to go to class, right?
Absolutely. It feels great, Chris.
Thank you. So, Caitlin, I liked your quote because I really think it resonated with a lot of us that start on a certain path and realize it's not the path. But Caitlin's quote was, "We all want progress, but if we're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man who turns back soonest is the most progressive." I like that. I think that's very cool. I think that micro-credentials is that path. I think, 10 years ago, it would have been nice for UTPB to be on that micro-credentials path, but we've had to turn around, with a little bit of grant money, then here we are back on our road to progress. So thank you, Caitlin, for being one of our panelists today. Next, we have, we did Sherry Galindo, but we actually have Diana Mesa that's going to be replacing Cheryl. So she actually was third on deck, believe it or not, for TWC. Everybody's falling victim to the flu, or they're waking up with some sort of eye infection or something going on. So it's that time of season. So I'm a respiratory therapist, so I definitely understand the ups and downs. But thank you really for being here. And I'm sorry, but I don't know if you like her quote. I can read her quote if you feel like it's best.
Absolutely.
So Diana's quote, taken from Sherry, is, "The growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership." I think that's kind of neat. I think, when we look at the types of leaderships that you have, it is a calling, regardless of what type of you fall under. And I think leadership really puts us in a position to kind of see things through a different lens. Maybe a 30, 50,000 foot, but boots on the ground still need good leaders. So thank you for being here and taking that. I really do appreciate it. So thank you. Next we have Chelsea Murray. If Chelsea wasn't here, this wouldn't even be going on. So definitely having a Coursera representative is what this is all about. So Chelsea comes with a quote that says, "When you come to the edge of all the light, you know and are about to step into the darkness of the unknown. Faith is knowing one of two things will happen. There will be something solid to stand on, or you will be taught how to fly." I think you can, I think that's kind of like me too, huh? Taught how to fly. And so thank you so much, Chelsea, for being here. I know that you've got a traveling gig going on, a one-man show, right? You're going around the state in the western part of Texas. So
this week, yes.
Yeah, so thank you for stopping through Odessa and being here to participate. So it's been, I think Lily and I can say because you came on about the same time that I did. And so the learning curve for both of us really was kind of on the same path. So I'd sure do thank you for, providing your feedback whenever I needed to hear it. So thank you so much for being here. All right. I think that's everybody. So what I want to do is this discussion is really going to be oh, I'm sorry, Lily. I'm so sorry. I thought I was looking right at you. So next we have Dr. Lily Guy, Associate Professor for UTPB College of Business. That's her quote, just a blank slate. She just wanted you to make it whatever you want and whatever you see fitting for that particular quote. I just should put quotes up there is what I should have done. But Dr. Guy is super, super instrumental in working with me as well. She's our faculty champion for this particular grant and this particular initiative. And I think having her work with me through a higher education lens as one of our professors, she's really taken it and she's done a good job leading the charge with putting this content into her curriculum. So if you don't mind, can I ask how many students do you currently have in a micro-credential in your classes now?
Currently at this moment, I say that I helped enroll 25, 11, so 34 people already enrolled this semester, and I did share the link with my online students, a class of 77. I don't know how much they're doing, but I do offer credits so that they can work on something and then walk away with something. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that, and I think that really shows what our professors could be taking advantage of. And I think that you're showing them that a non-credit bearing can be credit. I mean, you're working with your students on giving them credit, and I think that's really what we want to focus on in terms of how we're looking at that as we move on into the future, is that there's going to be a reward for that in terms of the credit aspect of it. So today's discussion is really going to be us. I want y'all to be very comfortable. The questions that we have are going to be geared towards the expert side of what you do. And I think what this day of discussion, micro-credentials in the workforce, I think we want to target how our employers not only see them as education, but see them as a vital to those that are currently employed as well. And I think we'll talk about that, in terms of how that works out. But I do want to target micro-credentials because there's been a lot of discussion about what is a micro-credential. That definition is such a broad definition, and I think anybody that, if I asked everybody within this building, what is your definition of a micro-credential, it would all be different. And so a micro-credential, in just a nutshell, it's a short course that validates a student's skills and competencies in a specific area. They are designed to be completed in a short amount of time that is less than a traditional degree. They are assessed against clear standards, which I think the American Council of Education is really pushing that standard, and I like to see that happening. And then we want to know who they're for. I think a micro-credential is not, it's not just for somebody that's currently enrolled. They can be beneficial for students, working professional, and adult learners looking to re-enter, advance their skills within their current workforce or a new workforce if they feel like they're able to retire or maybe transition into something else. They can help students find part-time jobs, internships, apprenticeships, which is what CWC is really, really good at doing while in school, helping to stand out from their peers and earn a job quicker. So our students definitely need to hear that. I think they go to school not to, sit at the end of their school and just look at their degree on the wall. I think they want to use it. And so micro-credentials helps pair that degree with good general skill set. So, and they also help working professionals keep up with industry changes. That's a huge one. I think in one of my poll questions, there's a lot of carbon talk in our Permian Basin. We're heavy oil and gas, and I think there's a carbon footprint that we want to reduce or we want to be able to capture or sequester. And I think that's really something that speaks to the technology advancement of what we want to see within such an industry here in Permian Basin. So I thought that would be nice just to kind of give a little definition of what micro-credentials could mean to, to different people, but that just kind of sums it up. So First question, I want to start with you, Chelsea, if you don't mind. How can Coursera leverage its platform data to identify emerging skill gaps and develop new micro-credential programs that meet the evolving needs of the job market?
Yeah, so I really what I want to start with, and I actually used this in a presentation a couple weeks ago. So when I first started with Coursera, which was actually back in June, so things have changed rapidly even in that amount of time. And what ended up happening is, so the slide everyone saw earlier with all of the professional certificates listed on the screen. I went into a presentation that I had given in August to update that slide, and I was kind of blown away in my own, like the tiles were much smaller now. And so that's exactly what we're doing at Coursera. So our industry partners, so there's kind of two sides of it. Our industry partners are creating the content and creating those professional certificates and the courses. We're getting updates all the time in our inbox of this course has been updated. These micro-credentials, these certificates have an extra course because this is really important to this professional certificate. So we know that our industry partners are updating their courses constantly. And then on the flip side, there's also, Coursera is bringing on those new industry partners consistently, looking at what is important now. I'm sure we're going to talk about it with Gen AI, right? Like that's what's
I was just about to bring that up,
right?
yeah.
So we're making sure that those pieces, and that's what we're seeing a lot of is in those courses, or in those certificates, a lot of the courses that are being added have to do with, okay, this is how the certificate looked a year ago, but now we've got to add this little piece into it. And so really making sure, we're kind of looking at both sides of that. We've got our industry professionals who are authoring these courses, but then we are also making sure that we're bringing on those certificates that are top of mind, which I'm assuming you're seeing as well too.
Yeah.
Yes, I do see a lot. Because when we started back in 2022, for the data analytics, okay, Caitlin completed. For that one, once we finish everything, we receive email saying, oh, now you have access to the advanced ones. I don't know why I did it. But anyway, so recently I think maybe start from last year, we started to receive notifications from Coursera and talking about AI materials updated. So I think that out of the 6 Google professional certificates, at least 4 of them have that small sticker on there saying that now they have the AI content updated.
It's funny because that's why I had Megan talk about, since we started this, Gen AI has been incorporated because a lot of that tool, it's a tool, that tool, the development from just that time is what they want to see students have, is they want to see the advancements of what's coming out. Because I think it's safe to say that we all know that technology changes, and within a month's time, you can already be on a different platform, you can be already having updates, and I think Gen AI really shows us how we can use that tool and prompt and learn how to do those things from an aspect of even with data. Data is one of those. So Dr. Guy, let me ask you, how can higher education institutions effectively integrate these micro-credentials with these types of new platforms into their academic programs and support students in order to acquire that skill like Gen AI?
It's not easy. I will say that it's definitely going to be a journey to see this transformation within the higher education, how this, we can collaborate and integrate this micro-credentials platforms into our teaching and learning. I think that I would say that what I noticed so far around the faculty member is that we care. If the faculty member realize the importance of this, like I'm in the marketing field, so for marketing, when we read a report that during the COVID years, even within from 20 to 22, that we already see that marketing field that excels 5 times faster than they should be during that period of time.
Wow.
So talking about the importance of embracing the new technology, it's very important, and it's even for me. So I'm talking about me surviving this trend as an educator. am I going to be discarded or thrown away? What I should cover in the classroom for my students. And micro-credentials offer that help.
Yeah.
Because when I received the training, nobody taught me what is AI. Nobody taught me, why you need to do this, why you need to do that, analyze data,
Right.
not on SPSS anymore.
Right.
So all this information can be learned quickly, comparatively quickly, if somebody is interested, like our students.
Well, and that goes to segue into that next question of, there are industries that are falling behind, and I don't, of course the whole point is not to point fingers, it's just the way of the world. There's so many things that are changing within industries. And I think data analytics is one of those that has truly, truly taken off because everybody wants data to support a P&L. Everybody needs data to support why they need X number of manpower. There's a lot of concepts. So this is something that I thought it would be great because Gina's industry is one of those that you can't see. It's one of those that you have to be on a computer to know that you're being affected by it. So I want to hear from Gina as far as opening up your business and starting to see the landscape of our geography in the Permian Basin, because we are have lucrative businesses here that have done very well. So how can micro-credentials effectively address the evolving threat landscape? And I say that not as a looking outside landscape. In cybersecurity and equipped individuals with the necessary skills to combat emerging cyber threats.
Love it. That's
Right? That's a good one.
question.
Okay.
I could talk about this so much, so brace yourself, get ready. This is a great conversation. And before I dive into that, I just want to say I'm such a fan of what Coursera is doing and how UTPB is partnering with Coursera, I should say. So at Tall City Cyber, one of our differentiators is that all of our staff is certified in Department of Defense Directive 8140 level certifications. And if you haven't heard of DoD 8140, in government contracting, the DoD has set the standard for the minimum level of certification that you must have to fulfill an information security role. So for cybersecurity professionals, certifications are they're critical to your job. And the great leaders of our time, like Dyson, Brad Jacobs, they say, use technology in ways never imagined before. Well, back in the day, we used to do coding as all one program. And if we had a problem with any part of the programming, we had to examine the entire code and go back and change that part that was having a problem, and then we noticed it impacted all the other sections of the code. And we basically had to build new code from scratch all the time. It was not an efficient way to do this. And traditionally, we have degree programs that are built out using what we know at the time. And so you build this entire degree program, 4-year degree, 6-year degree, master's, doctorates, whatever. And to rebuild that entire degree program to adapt to the fast-changing technical landscape is almost impossible to keep up with. But there's still value in those degree programs. So micro-credentials is a perfect partnering, a perfect way to stack on top of your degree program. And I would say even over the course of my career, I would have clients that would be on like AWS cloud. And then we would have another client that was on Azure. Well, my computer science degree did teach me both AWS and Azure. And way, way back in the day, I won't tell you how old I am, we would have new technologies that came out and we'd have to like sit in a corner and figure it out and just do the best we could to implement it. But that came with a lot of security risks. You'd have someone in the northeast part of the United States who was implementing it and using it differently than someone in the southwest part of the United States. So micro-credentials kind of gets the best practices, the best out to all of these professionals and levels the playing field. So as new technology evolves, and I think it's almost every day.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Something new
For
is
sure.
coming out in the technology world. These partners that Coursera has are able to update little sections of their micro-credential programs to be current.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny you bring that point up, because just when I started, and I think it's exciting to see that the foundation and fundamentals of Azure and a lot of these AWS, you know, CompTIA, all of these have, it's really, you can almost preview them before you commit to the course. And I think you can do guided, you know, Coursera's got, it's not just going in and doing the modules. You can go in and do, you know, guided projects where you work alongside an expert and they show you how to build. But they've got a lot of videos that kind of give you that precursor. So, you know, I think that's, data analytics was one of those where it's not just the Excel spreadsheet anymore, that data analytics were, you know, I'm one of those nice young older people that had Excel, and it was very challenging because now you have macros involved with Excel, but you have a lot of different technology advancements that improved, you know, that aspect of that particular software. And data analytics was one of those that taught us that, and cybersecurity is no different, because you working with the computer resources that we weren't taught within our degree platforms or programs. And I think you're right, Coursera has an opportunity and a vast partnership, which is nice. You don't want to have to rely on one person, because now you have Microsoft, you have Google, you have all of these that kind of have these interpretations of you know, how their industries are affected by these. But it's really nice because TWC is, you know, Texas Workforce Commission is one of those state funded. It comes from a federal, I mean, there's a pathway, and I definitely want you to elaborate on this for us, you know, because we're not experts in what you do every day. How can TWC facilitate a stronger collaboration between education providers? And it doesn't necessarily have to be from an institution. It could be, you know, subject matter experts, right. You know, experts that have like nursing, you know, has nursing educators, you know, I mean, they have different employers and industry associations to assure that micro-credentials are aligned with industry standards and meet evolving needs of the labor market. So what I'd like, and I mean that's a whole lot, but I want you to kind of give us, how does that pipeline of funding, how does it, from a workforce board, how does that distribution look? I mean, is there certain things that y'all have priority within this workforce board that our employers need to be conscious and aware of?
Really just the need of the business. So what is it that they're looking for? How will it benefit for them to have retention? How will it work with having people that they already have upskilled? Of course, if you're in the Permian Basin, you already know that turnover rates are pretty high.
For sure.
So that's a struggle within that, you know, we're facing, you know, healthcare is facing challenges against the oil field. You think that they're not related.
Right.
But it is.
Yeah.
Then you have IT still against the oil and gas. But ensuring that those micro certifications could go along with any type of certifications that they do and graduate with something that comes with it, encourages them to facilitate something for that employer to have a valuable player on their team. We saw it with COVID that a lot of people were being laid off because they weren't certified or to the standard.
Very true.
We're reaching to budgeting needs. So are we looking at the budget? Who do we need to let go? Who is certified? Who would be? And sometimes we see that, okay, well, hey, I can get into a company because I know someone. Now we're heavily relying on credentials. We're heavily relying on, well, maybe the schools and the universities or the community colleges don't offer it, but with working alongside with the TWC funding, we can actually provide apprenticeships. We could do small business, you know, grants in general for anything that could benefit both the job seeker as well as that company.
And let me add something here that might, because I mentioned this in my PowerPoint, it's non-traditional.
Right.
You know, I mean, and I think that's really what keeps food on the table, is you have to have a job. You know, those already in the workforce have to be trying to find flexibility. So does the grant funding support a single mom, single dad? I mean, is there childcare involved? Because I know that's always another issue with employers is, their employees need childcare, is that something that y'all also can support with?
Yes.
Okay.
With all federal funding, it does come with some guidelines. However, we do have childcare services where they could get support in, facilitating that funding for them to be able to provide childcare for their children while they're in school, while they're getting training. So yes, absolutely. Within Workforce Solutions and the training that we do provide, there's also supportive services. So do you need transportation? Do you need the funding for uniforms, attire, tools? Because again, we want to make sure that they're prepared. We're trying to invest in our own, and that's kind of what we go by. And any of the skills that we're able to bring in, and if they're able to qualify, we're able to pretty much prep them and have them ready to go.
It's neat that you say that, because I know you work very closely with Odessa College.
Right.
And a lot of their trade schools are seeing that, where, I can get into a lineman program, which I love about their continuing education at Odessa College is they look at not just the 180-degree picture, they look at the 365-degree picture of that particular individual to say, look, we know that you want to be a lineman, or we know that you want to get into this program to get this type of skill set and trade, but we know that there's a cost for that equipment. And I think that goes back to technology. Technology is extremely expensive, and I think that's really what a lot of employers have a hard time is, they would love to develop their staff to reduce retention, but the funding, to know that funding's there for those employers for that is absolutely a key that I think they should focus on when if they happen to think that it's so, really, really difficult to get into those programs. Once you do it once, you're in, right?
Absolutely. And the most intimidating part with everything is the paperwork. What comes with, TWC and paperwork.
The state.
Well, that's what we're here for. So having that guidance with our board, and then also too with the Workforce Solutions, we help them and guide the company every step of the way. That way they feel less intimidated by, what's in it for me, and it's going to add more workload. As we all know, we're busy, there's business to run, but that's what we're here for.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, that's such a gift employers can give
For
their
sure.
team as well.
For sure.
And I talked to you a little bit about this as well, as an employer, things are busy.
Yes.
But taking that time so that you can empower your team members to upskill is truly a gift.
And the retention and the gratitude that you see with the employer is immense. They'll say they invested in us, so now you see them in the long run. You're not seeing them flip, every 6 months or so.
And I think it's safe to say that everybody that's been under somebody, they know they're appreciated. I'm not saying that but I think if they see that leader going above and beyond to not make their job so easy, but to help them get through that time. I mean, it's one of those that I think now that you've become a working professional, those things that to hear, and it's nice because you're coming into that world where the support is there, and I can say that it's only going to get better. And I think that, what Diana just hit on, that there's money still left that employers can go after. So let me ask you this, because now that you're off mom's payroll, all right, and you're on your own, you're doing all of that, right? So looking back at you could be on your mom's payroll, but looking back at your career journey, can you pinpoint a moment where having a micro-credential or the lack thereof directly impacted your opportunity and your trajectory? Because I think that impact is really, that's what we preach here, is we want students to have an impact of not having debt when they walk off of this campus. And I think Dr. Woodley and our administrative team, they really focus on, we don't want people to start out with a negative balance on their back. I mean, that can be very heavy and for that. So tell us about that. Well, what was that impact for you?
Well, so having my micro-credential, let me go back. The reason why I chose micro is because whenever I was first introduced to the micro-credential program, it was not something that I was interested in. But quickly, I changed the course of my trajectory to become more interested in it. Dr. Guy was kind of an usher into that as well.
Nothing forced?
No. Dr. Guy, she definitely pushed me to be, she wants me to be an industry leader. She doesn't want me to sit behind and do something different. She wants me to be somebody that I could be. And because of this program, because of the Coursera program, it makes my resume stand out, ultimately is what it does. So whenever I started with my company, I had received the offer right before I graduated.
Wow.
And so I graduated and started with them. Having the micro-credential attached to my degree, it made me realize how grateful I was to have that because of the skills that the course taught me, I was able to take that into my industry and I help out coworkers. I'm great in Excel, and that was a lot of what the data analytics program was back in 2022, which now I'm sure it's adapted to more, AI generative stuff.
Let me ask you this, were you influenced or did it make you better in that Excel?
I think it made me better, honestly, because it provided me with skills that I did not know how to do. Of course, I had like a basic understanding of Excel and what Excel does, but I can now use those formulas and the macros and everything like that into my daily work life. And I can teach my coworkers how to do so as well.
So it just kind of passes, even though you have it, you can give them that opportunity.
So it doesn't just benefit me, it really benefits other people in my
those around you,
well.
yeah. I think that's safe to say. Now, I want to go back to our executive director, Megan, because I think that's really what I wanted her to kind of give us her experience, because things different. When the pandemic was there, it was a totally different work environment on how you were going to interact with people, because body language says a lot.
Yes.
I mean, when you have a mask over your face and you get to read people's eyes, but you truly don't get to see what the expressions are. And so I want to ask Megan again, because what you touched on was assessment. And I know I grew up my career around healthcare, and assessments were everything. And one of the things that we had to have was the ability to look at employees and see how much of that knowledge they retained. And I think I go back to using this, I want to say this because it's evidence-based now. I mean, evidence-based is not just in healthcare practice. I think evidence-based can be in data. Data is evidence-based. And so I want to ask Megan, and I'll pass this to her. So Megan, with that part, that first part that you mentioned, what does employers, or how could we help educate employers whenever we're looking at students, or because we look at students' background and we kind of see them as alignments for these. How are we helping these employers with that assessment as far as these people that are coming to them asking for a job? Is that something that you're seeing a lot of them doing now, is assessing the resume for certain skills?
Yeah, I think anytime an employer comes on campus, if they are providing advice to students, they're saying, lead with your technical skills, right? And so that's the first thing that they're looking for as a differentiator. So we really want our students to be well-equipped and competitive and be able to do that.
Makes sense. And I think the assessments, because evidence base is always changing. I think it's like technology. Right now there's a study going on that's probably not going to be published, and we're going to see that in 6 months, or there's a research going on that we're not going to be able to see in 10 years. And I think that's important because it's something that we don't need to forget about micro-credentials, because it's not a one and done. It's a fluid process of education, and I think that's what interested me about continuing education is, man, it's never ending. Coursera makes you a lifelong learner, and I think that's really a key. You can be 10 years into a job and learn something that helps you or makes it more efficient, and I think that's one of those ideas that we really need to find. And so that what kind of leads me into this. So Chelsea, how can Coursera effectively leverage its networks of industry partners to develop and deliver high-quality, industry-recognized, because we do want to point out industry-recognized. That definitely makes students, alumni, that makes anybody see that it has, that's recognized, something they want to see that they're going to take serious. How does Coursera effectively leverage its networks of industry partners?
Yeah, so, and I'm so happy. This is probably I'm gonna say something first and then come back to the question, because, and if anyone was here during sound check. So I actually started my professional career as a public education teacher. And so all of this is very, very like near and dear to my heart, and what I do now. But also hearing from the side of the student who has then taken what they have learned. And so I'm so happy to be a part of this panel and to really like hear this in real life, because we don't always get to hear those stories. So I'm so glad you're here today. But also going back to that learning piece, and part of my quote, and really that taking that hands-on learning of that, it is not just sitting in front of a screen and hitting fast forward till you get to the end, right? Like, I mean,
we all done it.
Right,
I think we all have done it.
What I love about this piece and these micro-credentials, these professional certificates, is you're put into a situation with these guided projects of learning a tool, learning a skill, but it's also not a one and done. Like, oh, you didn't really do that very well, that's a bummer, right? The whole point of it is to be in this learning environment where you can mess up a little bit. Right? Because that's how we learn, is we learn by doing it wrong a couple of times and redoing it. And then again, going back to the Excel, like, I don't know how many times I've done the same formula wrong so many times, but now I know, like, I can do it, right? So going back to the question of leveraging that, of it's not just the stamp of the Google or the stamp of IBM or the stamp of, it's knowing that behind that stamp, there was a lot of work that was done to hone those skills. And then again, to your point of, you were like, yeah, I know how to do this and I can teach someone else. Like that is the highest form of, you know,
see one, do one, teach one, right?
When you can teach someone else how to do it, like in my classroom, that was always my like, they've got it, they understand it because they just explained it to someone else. And so that is validation in that it's not just the stamp, it's the, I truly learned how to do this skill and I can show you right now, this is what I learned by earning this professional certificate.
I did not know that you were a teacher, so that's interesting. Very cool, very cool. So going, yes ma'am.
I also want to add a little bit on to emphasize how much work that a student would like, you know, who determined to accomplish this. Because on the Coursera official website, whatever Kaylin finished, that marked as a 7 months work.
Yeah, for sure.
I think in many university systems, they recognize it, because I attended with a SUNY system, and then they said, how could you guarantee a student accomplish this 7 months material within 8 weeks? I was like, this is an add-on. That needs their determination to finish this.
Motivation, right, yeah.
Strong motivation.
Absolutely.
So this data analytics skills really help the student to add something else on their plate on top of the knowledge of marketing. So,
and you know, it's I like that you piggybacked off of that, because that shows improvement in skills, you know, and with you giving her that avenue, because it all started with you. You didn't have to do it, Dr. Guy. You know, it was presented to you. Yeah, I mean, it was presented to you, but you have a choice. I mean, it's as a professor, it's one of those where you need to make sure the quality and the content that you're putting in front of your student is going to be quality and content that's going to benefit them and not put them in, so to speak, going backwards, right? And I think what I wanted to ask, because of that, we do see economic growth, right? That is, I mean, you've applied that. So Dr. Guy, how can micro-credentials contribute more to economic growth and innovation with the changes in that? Do you think these courses that we want to add, do you think they will get, I mean, they have to get better. I would hope that, and it's safe to say that they would. How would that, to an employer, feel as productivity in the workforce? Do you see that she's probably more productive in the workforce having a data analytics?
Can I answer that, Chris?
Yeah, you sure can, absolutely.
So, me personally, I have a BBA in business marketing. That was my personal degree with the certificate of data analytics. And in my professional opinion, I feel as though that I use the data analytics side of it more in my line of work because I did not go a marketing route with my professional career.
Yeah.
I went into a route of Texas utilities. You know, I deal with electricity. I do residential and small commercial electricity here in Odessa. And a lot of that is reading and analyzing and looking at how to, yes, there is some of the marketing side of it, as well as like, you know, project management, making customers happy, things like that. But a lot of it is just organization, data analysis, making sure that electricity flows, making sure that things work, using formulas, using all of these tools that the Coursera provided me into my professional career.
And it does. I mean, I think, and I like it because there's a big smile on your face and there's a big smile on your face. But I think the teachable moment is that as a teacher, you want to see how, and I was asking her mom, her mom's up here with her today, and I thought that support's fantastic, by the way. Everything aside, that's what every parent wants. Every parent, every employer wants to have that happy employee, that employee that learns something and they're being productive at work, productive in a way that you probably would have never thought you would have been. Because you didn't truly know, you read the job description, but you don't truly know how that's gonna, is it gonna be the bullet points that you see? And I think that's very, that's very, so Diana, going back to that question, is that something that is there data that y'all do that shows, like, is the funding gonna give us a good ROI for this employee, or does the employer tell you, hey, look, if we had X number of dollars, if Gina got $25 million, which that would be nice, Gina. but if that was the case, is that something that y'all consider the employer? Because I know you just don't give them, here's this, do you want to see metrics like that, or do you want to see data provided back to you from that?
In a sense, yes, but also the willingness for them being able to, what are you trying to grow? Of course, our industries all around, they're growing, but it's also very competitive as well. So how well trained, do you have them? Like, how valuable are they going to be to your company? So in that aspect, not really, because there's a lot of the funding that they may have available to them. So it'll be some sort of an incentive. So we'll bring that over. They have to just have the staff that is willing to learn, that is going to stick around. There is a follow through with those employees to ensure that not only is she investing in the training, because they're not really putting in the dollars per se, they're putting in the manpower. Who do you have on there that they're gonna have a hands-on training, on-the-job training? So in a sense,
it does make sense. I never thought about it that way. When you say it that way, that there is accountability from her. You're not that they're going to have to worry about the budget, but they just have to make sure they show up to the training. Right. So that makes sense.
I'd love to chime in on the economic benefits.
Absolutely. But did you finish? Was that everything? I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought that was a good point.
No, but I mean, really, it's just going to grow that company. It's going to empower them to really just grow within. And then also just grow in other areas. We have so many rural areas that we cover. For instance, we cover 17 counties in the Permian Basin. So if you're thinking Midland, Odessa, there's so many other small
For sure. And that's about 500,000 plus people when you consider 17 counties, right?
Right,
yeah.
Yes. So it's just an expansion, opportunity of expansion too. Because as you know, Midland, Odessa is already growing. Labor market information, we have that available. So if an employer wants that information as far as what is the potential for this industry, as Chelsea was talking about, is the industries are very focused. So if we're really just focusing on the industries, then what is the potential growth and sustainability of that industry in the Permian Basin?
So go ahead and elaborate on that.
From an employer perspective, so Tall City Cyber doing government contracting, I can give you a very specific example that we had just last year.
We're not going to get arrested by the DOD or anything, right?
I mean,
looking over our shoulders.
I haven't said that. So we had an opportunity to go after an auditing contract for the DOD. And essentially the conversation we had with my employee, who has a bachelor's in computer science, which is considered foundational now. That's like beginner level, whereas they used to be more experience. But so I had this conversation with my employee, and I'm like, if you go get this $5,000 auditing certification, micro-credential, we can go after this multi-million-dollar, multi-year engagement. Your salary can increase by this much. Your job security is multi-year now. So the economic benefits from that,
10 times,
it benefits our company, it benefits our employee, but we also haven't even touched on the mental health benefits of micro-credentials. When you're going through a 4-year degree, that's a slog. I mean, it is a 4-year haul. And if you can have those small wins of the Google cybersecurity training, or which very detailed, very compact, you do get a lot of learning in a very short amount of time. That does something to the dopamine, the brain. I mean, you feel better. It's a great service for employers to provide micro-credential programs for their employees. Even if they're in cybersecurity and they want to study how to play guitar, like, there's just...
I think that's so nice that you brought up the mental aspect of the stress and the frustration, and when you don't get it right the first time, you got to go back around. I mean, it's so nice how everything ties in, but that's one of those avenues that I think, working with one of as a continuing ed, I kind of get a bird's eye view of what some of our professors are doing. And one of our professors, Dr. Stacy Reynolds, is over our mental health. And so we're working on, kind of the eye-opening of how short we are, and we have this behavioral hospital, 200-bed behavioral hospital that's opening up. And it's just, I don't want to read the numbers off to you because I'm pretty sure, but they are astonishing how lack of we have. And I think that really is one of those, the growth of our city really is just phenomenal. I mean, there's other parts of Texas that are really, Frisco, Texas is taking off and booming, but they're surrounded by a metropolitan environment where we don't have that. We have 150 miles, and we have El Paso that's over 300 miles, and that's our support system. But you're looking at mental health, which the pandemic triggered as well, but you're also looking at the student side of things. And I think that's very, very key, those small wins. I like small wins. I don't know about you, but those things can really make you feel good and confident about what you're moving forward in. But I do want to go back to you on this, because I think your see one, do one, teach one concept really is a valuable lesson to coworkers. If you were advising, and we can all answer this because I think we're alumni, not just you. If you were advising a current student or recent graduate considering investing time and resources into micro-credentials, what factors would you encourage them to consider when evaluating? Because obviously you didn't really know anything about data, but you evaluated it, right?
Absolutely. So I think what I'd probably do first is, if somebody's considering, enrolling in like a micro-credential program, of course, I want to know why. Why would they want to? What's their reason? What's their motive? Because if it's going to encourage that and fulfill that, then I say go for it. Absolutely. Even if it's not something that's going to fulfill a need right now, or even in their career at the moment, it could potentially benefit them in the future. If they're thinking about, hey, I just started at this job, it's okay, but I don't know that I want to be here for the next 5 years, that's when I would encourage them, like, what have you thought about doing cybersecurity? Have you thought about, project management? Have you thought about, different career options can come out of these certificates.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a whole 4-year degree to change careers. You can change your whole career without that.
Well, and I think that you're an example of that is, you look at, and there's a lot of testimonials, I think case studies that we've done and that we've participated in, there are some people where their micro-credential did change the way that they were going to be. So that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Very good point.
I want to circle it back to higher education.
Absolutely.
So definitely because of the popularity of the micro-credentials, a lot of discussion was like, whether the micro-credentials are going to replace the education. I will say no. Because as everybody, we discussed that already. education is systematically built on a foundation,
Yeah.
solid foundation,
Right.
so that whoever gets chance to learn more, with resources, then they can skill up, and they can actually jump on it right away because they have this learning mind. And as Kayla mentioned, that she, because of the design of the degree, she feels comfortable working with project management, maybe a little bit of information about accounting and finance. So a lot of things help. And that's also the thing that we try to, why we want to do this, why the teachers need to do this, because we want the students to succeed. We want the student to really be successful in the future. It doesn't matter whether they're going to be in the marketing field or not, but they can do a lot. And they will feel comfortable learning about the other things. And I also want to emphasize that 2022, we bag students and really force students to do this, to take my class. But 40 students signed up, 37 completed. See the passion and and enthusiasm behind it. And then the next year, student heard about it. 60 students that reached the cap, like.
And they all completed it. They all completed it, right?
Yeah, 37 amount 40, but at the second year, definitely it's around another 40 students because the audience is definitely the base is bigger. But then we do see a lot of more students. They're interested to learn more. And don't forget, the other case I share with you is that Western Texas girl now is working in New York City for Chase Morgan Stanley, the bank, because the headhunter told her that she was recruited because of the data analytics certificate she shared on her LinkedIn account. So thank you so much for everything, whatever Coursera offers and all those financial support to have the students, to allow the student opportunities to work on this. And, I definitely believe there's another, bright future for Caitlin and Prayer because she has a learning mind.
And that motivation, and I agree. It's funny you say that, but your quote says a lot about you.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about the humbleness about how you appreciate failure, or going down a path that you may not have thought you would go on. And I think that's what I like is it's free. I mean, this is something that is not gonna cost these students that are here in the library. It's not costing them anything. I think the lesson here is flexibility. How can we allow them to find that flexibility? I work on mine when my wife shops. When she's shopping, I can have it on my mobile phone and I read or I do something and TJ Maxx and Marshalls, man,
long line.
That's my classroom. Those two are my classrooms, TJ Maxx. The line is always long, so I'm able to do that. But there's the flexibility of it, and I think that's really what makes it easy for me. Not that I'm busy or I don't have time, but it just adds another value proposition of finding time or being able to structure time. And speaking of structure, it does keep that learning aspect of you reading something and just because you do it. We're not trying to be know-it-all. I think it's just because it's there. That's what I love about it. It's something that not only is our university benefiting from it, but UTA has that workshop for professors to help them. And Dr. Guy and I created a master shell that takes some of the work out of creating that class. And we've done a nice little video that introduces students, a little visual that introduces students, that our faculty have access, because you're right, time is of the essence when you're in the classroom. You don't have all the time in the world, but you want to make sure that the content that the student's getting is relevant. So,
are you familiar with John Maxwell?
I am. I follow him. He's one of, he does for the, absolutely.
The area for our leadership training here every year, but he talks about getting out of the people pile.
Yep.
You've got to find a way to stand out of the people pile. And so for me, my perspective as an employer here, you may have 40 people that graduate with a computer science degree, but when I see their resume with all those badges stacked at the top, where they started at the AWS foundations and they went all the way to the security expert level, that helps them jump out of the people pile. And it's a great alternative to doom scrolling. Right?
Yes.
Leveling up or doom scrolling or shopping or, it's just a great alternative.
And it is, and it's, I like the idea that it's not just about, we want them to specialize. I think that's our goal, is we want to see the degree, the certificate. We want our goal here is to double, our degrees by a certain time frame, and I think it can be done. I think now that we're out of this mindset of making excuses because the pandemic gave me that opportunity to make that excuse, that right there goes away. And I think this type of process allows you to utilize downtime, your weekends, and it's one of those where we don't have a professional team here, there's not a lot of things, but you can listen to a lot of this stuff in your car, right? So tell me about that. So what are the ways that you've kind of found how people can benefit this? Because it's not always in a laptop or on a computer, right?
Right, and that's, again, going back to my education, what I was doing before is everyone does learn differently, and there are different modalities of being, and that's the beautiful thing, again, is within these courses, within these micro-credentials, it's not all videos. You do have videos, you have readings, but like going back to videos, I can listen to a video as well, and that's a lot of how I learn is in the car,
like a podcast.
On these long, right, exactly. And I actually learned about a new tool. I just sent it out in my newsletter. There are now tools where you can take an article and then you upload it, and then it turns it into a podcast. I was in heaven, right? Like, it was like this, and it's two people talking back and forth about this whole article, because I was like, that's how I can learn, right? So even utilizing different tools to help you, but you're kind of in control of your learning, which again, to a lot of students, sometimes that's the benefit, right? Of I can control what I'm doing. I have 30 minutes before class starts. I'm going to do this piece, right? And then, I'm not doing anything this weekend. All right, but if that were to be the case, right? Yes. They are in control of that schedule of when they access what part of the course and where they are with that. And I think that is a really powerful piece too of, it's also transitioning students from, you just came from a situation where basically all of your teachers, your parents were telling you what to do every single part of the day. And then now you're
Caitlin?
at higher ed, right?
Freedom.
And it's like, and so if we give them those foundations, and again, to your point too, once a learner goes through the process once, right? Like, okay, like now I understand the setup. I understand what makes up these courses.
Right.
And then that second, that third, that fourth certificate
becomes easier.
It's a little bit easier,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And again, I pinned this on, look what I did on the fridge, right? That, to me, that's that certificate, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, I can do another one? Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so a lot of times, and this goes with anything, is it's that first one, and really kind of getting that.
So that point right there is really what I was hoping to drive with our faculty, not to create more work, but to get one underneath your belt, because you created the shell, the model already, and I wanted to take that in my mind and think, okay, I've never built a shell, but I want to build something that takes 80% of the work away from them. I want them to have 40% of work rather than 100% of work. But you're absolutely right. When you completed that first one, man, you already know what buttons to hit. You already know how to log back in, where to go. So it gives you, but you have to do it.
Right.
I mean, you have to start the process. And I think that's everything in what we do. If you're going to fail, well, that failure is going to lead to that success. So
you ever get over optimistic and how you can build a learning
Yes,
like totally in there and you're like, wow.
Yeah, that's a little bit more than, save them for later, right? You said it's like shopping. So I want to save, we're getting to our ending point, but I wanted to save the last question for our Workforce Commission, because I know it always comes from the top. It always comes from somebody else, and I think that's one we appreciate about, the direction of our state administrative is they're looking at ways. So, not telling any secrets, but does our workforce board get an opportunity to dictate how and what programs, because not every program here meets the expectation of another part of Texas, but you're looking at 17 counties and you're looking at, you know, smaller workforces, or an impact could be 2 people quitting could really put a company in jeopardy. Does that allow the workforce board to dictate some of that to the state on how much we can see?
Yes and no. It's not the best answer. However, what I mean by that, I think just testimonials really do speak for themselves. So the labor market information is going to be a great tool for a board office to see how will it be sustainable here. We are here as, we're trying not to be the best kept secret, because like you said, if there's money at the table, how can we invest it in our community?
Right.
So it really just depends on how is the community growing? What take is it, going to? So it just really depends. We do have an industry base that we focus on. However, with skills grants, with apprenticeships, and small local grants that we have as well, that kind of gets adjusted, because like you said, we do partner with local community colleges. However, doesn't mean that, with a university, we can't work with them. So it just really is, how will it be impactful for the community, and would it be something sustainable? Nothing is off the table. Everything is open for discussion to see how we can go.
I think that's how I tried to negotiate that with my mom when I was a little kid. Man, but that was no gray with my mom. Man, it was either like, we're getting a whooping, or you know what? I mean, my mom was like, there was very little gray.
You could take a negotiation micro-credential.
Yeah. My mom's very old school, man, and I don't know if there's still, I don't care how much education I have. I think my mom is still one of those, it's black and white, dude. You're either gonna get busted, or you know what, you're not. So, but I wanna say in closing, the fact that you are very, very present in what you do says a lot. It says a lot to employers, because they're present. They have something to lose. Everybody has more, somebody has more to lose than others, but I think it all means the same when it comes to can we live to survive another day. Heaven forbid we don't have another pandemic or something as drastic as that just changes everything about our direction. But I think what it taught us was your quote, that nobody planned for it. And technology was the path that nobody ever thought virtual meetings, could be something that were productive. And I think that that's what I appreciate about every one of you today, is you brought a perspective, or you've brought a trial and tribulation that you've overcome. And I think that with that being said, our Q&A is going to open up, and I want our employers, or anybody in here that feels like, even mom can ask something if she wants, but I think that really gives us an opportunity to see what other people that are listening in kind of have something to say. And if we don't, then that's fine. But I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I know each and every one of you, and I know how much what you do means and matters to you. And I would like our students that are listening, or anybody that has the ability to reach out to you, or maybe that's an opportunity that might come up. And I want y'all to be, very, very appreciative of the fact that somebody was listening. So one person is all we need. And that's one person can I think marketing says word of mouth is really, really still a good way of marketing.
Good or bad, it's word of mouth.
It's sometimes. But any more thoughts? Anything else that y'all can think of that y'all want to elaborate? I've buffered for some time. Anybody got anything, or are we good?
I mean, we've touched slightly on it, but not becoming obsolete. Micro-credentialing really has given me the opportunity to sustain my career throughout all of my eras of life, and evolve and continue to grow my salary, I'm not going back for another 4-year degree. Right. So it really helps.
Chelsea's like, with the answer.
It helps people stay current and stay relevant.
And man, it's one of those 10 years ago. It was there. It was there. I mean, it was, and right, am I wrong, Chelsea? It's always been there. It's been, but I guess the motivation to put it at the level in which it's at now, because I think it's still going to get to a point, because now you have a lot of different learning platforms. You have Grow with Google, you have Coursera, you have HubSpot, but they all specialize in certain things.
I think we're at the beginning of
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that our UT system and our chancellor and vice chancellor are taking advantage of the partnerships and growing them and, yeah, starting a trend. So, yes, ma'am.
That's actually something that I would like to call for more attention from all faculty members. Because these days, I showed Grace how many certificates I've completed. And the next one I want to complete is the Google Essential for Prompts. So, because I read a lot of articles talking about that, how the higher education can survive. But definitely the faculty member needs to be there. We need to be the front, at the front line. I learned how to use Google, AI tools. And how to learn how to demonstrate usage of AI tools in my own teaching in the classroom, so that the students don't fear, they are not afraid of taking new challenges.
Yeah.
So that's what it should happen.
It's a good point. That's a good point.
I already have my doctorate. I don't want to do another doctorate, but I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that makes sustainable for myself, for my career, and also I hope that I can show my students, there's no end of learning.
That's a very good.
Coursera and UT system give us the chance for free to look at it. Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that just really shows, doctorates are, we're very proud of you for being, one of our professors. But you hit it where, it's a lifelong learner. I mean, you can be at a doctorate level, but there's always still opportunity for improve on what you have as a doctorate, and I think that's a good lesson.
Technology.
Yeah, good lesson. So
I do want to add on to that. Is anybody listening, watching, this is attainable for anybody. It could go for employers that might be interested in reaching out to us and letting us know that sometimes you feel that as it's not attainable, can I sustain to, like you said, go to school and have childcare, but it is as easy as just asking questions, because there's so many different pathways to get to those certifications.
I'm trying to get it onto the eligible training provider for us, and so, but it's good because I do want to say this. I do want to say that Coursera is going to establish the relationship beyond 2025. Which is a good thing. I mean, I think those types of opportunities, and it's always going to be there. It's not like we have to have it, it's still going to be there, and it's affordable. So what I want to talk to you about is for those that don't have that option to be free, what does that look like for an employer if they want to invest in Coursera?
Yeah, so that's kind of a trick question, and that's exactly what I kind of wanted to talk about, is we really focused on like this very specific relationship. And so again, lots of people that may be listening, so Coursera, I work with universities. So my role is on the Coursera for Campus side of things. We also there are many businesses that do kind of the same type of thing as what the UT system has done, is they're purchasing Coursera for their employees to then upskill, right? Good. And then there's a whole other side of Coursera that an individual learner can go on and they can learn on their own. There are different fees and different rates and things like that. But that's kind of the piece of this too, is and I think that's where universities, businesses, government agencies, all of that is helping someone learn where they are,
right,
but then also knowing that there is an opportunity to continue this, even if you're no longer a student here, or even if you're no longer an employee here for whatever reason, right? And so that's where, with Coursera, how it's set up, the beautiful thing is you're not going to lose what you've already done, which is great too, right? Like, I maybe started something but didn't finish it, story of my life. Right, but there is that opportunity, like you're not going to lose where you were. And so also, again, because I do think we run into that sometimes too, is especially with students, right? Like they're here for this segmented amount of time. We want to also make sure that when they do go out into the workforce, that it's still there. They can come back to it. It's just now we can get to the technical, like the logging in and all that is a tiny bit different, but it is still something that it is not something that is just only while you're here at UTPB.
That's a very good point, because for students, they lose their UTPB email after 12 months of graduation. And so you have to put your personal email
Yes.
in to sync up those. But I think that's a good thing because I know digital badging, you know, there's a lot of different things that follow people around, you know, credentials, you know, Coursera does the same thing. You can print it off, you know, you can do that. And I think that right there is what gives us that sense of, you know, it's not a one and done. I can take it forever. And I do want to mention one cool thing is you can actually link it, because I know a lot of employers are looking at LinkedIn. You know,
Yeah,
I
true.
have zero social media other than LinkedIn. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook, I don't do any of that stuff. But it's on my LinkedIn profile and you can show your experiences, and I think that pretty much becomes a resume as to what you've done. You can put all of that in there if you complete the profile, of course. But I think that's also nice is you can create those JSONs, you can put them everywhere. But that's everything that I had. Did anybody else have anything else? I think we pretty much did our job. Everybody's sweating up here. Everybody's ready to go get some food. But thank y'all very much. I cannot stress, this is our first one. I think this is going to help, hopefully to help us gauge on what kind of content we need to have for the next one. But I definitely want there to be a reoccurring opportunity for students to see what UTPB has. The PowerPoint gave us a good recap of how we got here. So thank y'all very, very much for being here. I cannot thank you. I mean, really, really, and truly. Do we have any questions or are we good? Are we good? Okay. Well, that's going to be the end of our presentation. So thank you for those that were here personally as well as attending on YouTube Live. Until next time, everybody have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Chris.